Hey, welcome back to Behind the Gloss. I'm Shakaya Monet, and I am here with Rasie B, the owner and founder of RB Jumpstart Coaching. Hi, Rasie. How are you?
I'm doing great, Shakaya. Thank you so
Mm,
much for having me here.
Of course. No, thank you. I know you are so busy. So you have your own coaching company or consulting business. You teach people how to do leadership. You also help them like become published, self-published authors,
Yeah.
and you yourself are an author.
Yeah.
So I don't know where to begin. I'm gonna be honest, because like you are so fascinating. So I have with me your first book, right? Like Lead in Your Truth.
Thank you.
I love it. I see you have your other books there.
Yeah.
So, because we're definitely going to talk about leading your truth today, but can you tell us about Heal On and Be Not Alone? Because I see those up there too.
Again, it's such a pleasure to be here. I'm super excited to unpack all the questions that you have. So Heal on Your Terms is all about empowering people who are grieving and moving through like the waves and some people call it stages, etc. Whatever that looks like for someone who's grieving, and it could be from like losing a loved one, losing a home, losing a house, a job, community, and it can apply to all different things. So I share my lived experience of moving through grief, all the things that worked for me, what didn't work for me, and how I tapped into community to help me through. And when I say community, specifically people who have experienced what I was going through. And then with Be Not Alone, it actually came out this year, this past summer. And I'm a firm believer that when you get to the roots of things, you're able to pivot from there. Because like for me, I got to unpack my childhood and really face my childhood trauma because it kept on coming up in therapy, one after another. I went to therapy for something else, and Civil War comes up, and all these different things that I experienced in childhood. So I was like, okay, this is time for me to unpack that. So actually, when I was writing Be Not Alone, it's my intention is to help more people tap into their inner strength and know that they have it within them to heal what hurts and move through that, really get to the roots and not we don't have to do it alone, right? We can get some support. Either it's like working with a counselor or working with people who have been there, and just surrounding ourselves with people who are going to uplift us and help us tap into that space that we need to tap into to get to where we want to be.
I'm so excited to read those books because like I've been reading this one, and like as you can see, I have so many like notes and things. I'm like, that's good, that's good. And you've lived like such a life, but I wanted to start with a passage from Leading Your Truth, like chapter 3. It's titled You Have a Gift, Use It. And you
Mhm.
say leaders have a voice, the gift to inspire people and influence the path taken by the ones we lead. How we choose to take action with our voice to inspire and to be authentic is up to us.
Mhm.
So I love that. It's evident that with all three of your books, you're doing that. But my question to you is like, why did you want to do this? And when did you know that you had the power and capability to do this?
Ooh, when like the knowing that I'm capable and being fully aware of this power that I have and this voice that I have to speak for myself and inspire others to use their voice, it came on later on in my leadership journey. But the thing is, it was like happening, but I wasn't like fully consciously doing and intentionally doing it. So like there was a situation where I was questioning, do I want to go into management? Like this, it just looks intimidating that I don't see someone who looks like me in that restaurant I was working at and looks like me, black, young. And I was like, at that time I was about 15 years old that I would step into like the first role of management at McDonald's. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. And I remember having a conversation with one of my teachers. And she basically kind of summed it up that you can if that's something that you're willing to and you believe in it. So with that conversation, as I moved on and think and building on my belief, and I was like, okay, I really needed to hear this voice from my teacher, who's my mentor and I trust a lot. And so I kind of built that belief, okay, I'm going to step into management. And as I moved through all the different levels of management, the different experience, building on different leadership skills, taking courses, going to different workshops, etc., I started to develop this confidence in leading others and really enjoying seeing the success, right? Like, and that's different for everyone. Like, if, someone on my team is like, okay, I want to get to this level, or I want to learn this specific thing, like within McDonald's restaurant, and I help them through the steps, like with coaching, guiding, being that person that they can talk to confidentially, and it kind of stays there, not my story to tell. And I that really it fed like my drive and the fire within to lead. And then in terms of like my voice, this was activated, if I remember the year, it would have been around 2009, 2010. And I was going, like, at first, like, I was working for my boss, who I was reporting to, was treating me differently, amongst all the other managers. And it was very evident, where to a point other managers were asking me, "Are you okay?" And something that I've learned in my leadership journey, actually, another boss I worked with said to me, if you have something to say, Rasie, go straight to the source. Don't talk about it with other people. And that was probably the best advice I ever got. So I'm not good at gossiping, and neither do I want to be, like, especially in the workplace. And so I took it upon myself, okay, I need to do something about this because it started to affect my sleep. It started to affect how I was performing, how I was showing up. And so I had to put this in writing and brainstorm. Okay, these are all the points I need to talk about. Arrange a meeting with my boss, and things didn't change from there. But what I learned, it was that I have a voice, right? Like, I can speak up for myself. And especially with having that heart, learning how to have that heart conversation, I'm not only doing it for myself, but I'm doing it for my team as well. I'm showing them that, okay, it is okay for you to speak up if something is not working for you. And then at the same time, though, when we're speaking up and we're empowered to speak up, it's important to do it with love, respect, and kindness. That I could not emphasize that enough. And that's what separates us from other people who are speaking up but doing it aggressively. And it doesn't create that welcoming environment and that safe space, like, psychologically, for other people. But I'll probably say, yeah, there was like kind of when it activated in different ways.
Oh, well, yeah, I think speaking up is such a journey. I'm
Mm.
currently on that journey. And
Mhm.
I love because in the book, you talked about like confrontation and like you touched on it, not really initially being that great at it. But I loved how you described confrontation as just an encounter with two people to find a solution.
Yeah.
And I think changing that mindset and even like in regards to speaking up, I guess like just being curious, like that's something I'm learning as I want to speak with people because
Mhm.
I feel like they kind of, were doing something that I didn't agree with. But I think instead of attacking it like that, it's just kind of like, why are you
Mhm.
doing this? And
Mhm. Mhm.
where can we meet in the middle? So, yeah, that's so interesting. And I think you even said it like, yeah, you may speak up. Sometimes you might not get like the desired results, but it's just so important to
Yeah.
speak up. So
Yeah.
I'm glad that you did. But
Yes, I'm
did
here.
that, because you kind of talked about having to like get this thing. I want to know, do you feel like you were always destined to like be your own boss and to be an author and to
Um, they all kind of happen at like different stages of my life. So in terms of being so the leader part, if I step into business and being an author, it's something that runs in my family, right? Like, my dad's a retired engineer, and he's been in all different various leadership roles like throughout his career. And my mom's a nurse, like she's still practicing, and she's always been in different leadership roles. My brothers, a lot of my cousins as well, like always in their different leadership roles. And then I think of my ancestors, and this is something I learned this April when I was visiting my parents, and through a conversation that our ancestors actually always had their own business. Like that's how things started. So the traditional ways of like going to school, getting an education, and getting a 9 to 5 job, that's something that kind of came after because they didn't have the funds to go to school. So they had to start a business and fend for themselves, right? So that's kind of like how it started. I thought like for at some point I was like, yeah, me and my older brother were the entrepreneurs in the family. Is like, girl, it's been in your genetics since like before you were born. So that's a really cool thing that I learned in April. And so in regards to like being in business, when I was working at McDonald's, the moment I was in the first level of management, and with people listening who have worked at McDonald's, you know that the training is very extensive, right? Like you're not just like thrown in and figure it out. You got to go through all these different stages of training, complete these different courses, self-paced or in person. They're very there's a lot of emphasis on learning the hard skills as the same as the soft skills. And so when I got into that first level of management, I thought to myself, it would be really cool for me to start open up my own restaurant one day. So that's when my aspiration was activated. And then fast forward, my I as I worked at different places, like the next place I worked at was a Starbucks, then it kind of converted to a coffee shop. And I imagine having this coffee shop with people feel welcome, and there's a ton of diversity in so many different aspects, like age, the what you look like, background, so that all the customers are coming in feel very belonging and very connected with everyone who's serving them. And then also having like live music and specifically like African music and having African arts on the wall. And that didn't happen. I worked on it for about 6 years, and that was really, really hard to swallow that I wasn't going to start that business. Pandemic happened. And when I look back now, I think it was a blessing in disguise. I didn't see it that way at the time. At the same time, those 6 years was me building a foundation for my business right now, RB Jumpstart Coaching. And then with becoming an author, I walked into a bookstore. It's called Chapters when I first moved to Canada in 2001. And as I was looking at all the books on the table, there was that lack of representation. And I've always been a very curious I've always been curious from like, being from like childhood. I remember one thing my dad always shares is like my whys. Like I always asking why. I want to know why after you tell me the why. And even throughout my leadership journey, if I don't know, if I'm not clear on what it is I'm being asked to do, it is hard for me to get it done. So that's where I kind of had some conflict with some managers and holding them accountable to getting clear on this is what you're asking for, or in situations where I go and teach myself different things that are being implemented before I share with my team. Because I'd be damned if someone asks me a question and I have no idea what it is or where to go get the answer, right? Yeah, so I was like in chapters and I saw all these books, lack of representation. There was no Black person on the cover, neither a woman on the cover. And then I thought to myself, it's like, it would be so cool for me to write a book, have my picture on the cover, for that representation piece. And then instantly when I had that thought, my self-limiting belief came, so that voice came up like, why would someone want to read your book? You're a refugee, you just moved from Sierra Leone, you just went through civil war, all these thoughts, right, that are very limited. And it's very interesting. All those limiting beliefs and those thoughts that were popping are actually all the reasons why I should write my story to inspire other people. So that's when it got activated for me as an
Oh,
author. And a couple, almost 2 decades later, that's when I wrote and published my first book.
oh my gosh. Well,
Yeah, self-limiting beliefs are real.
and because I know you talked about that in the book. I don't know if I can find it with all the notes taken. I think it was something of like your why fueled you, and then it was like those negative self-doubts that kind of extinguished the fire. And I was like, yeah, like it really does, even for me, like with the podcast. I'm like, who's gonna
Mhm.
want to listen to me? Like,
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm just a girl. But I think like just I don't know, living life more, meeting people like you, it's kind of like, okay, she can do it, like I can do it too. And you really do have an incredible story. I know you touched on it, but yeah, can you kind of just tell us about your childhood and your upbringing and how you came from Sierra Leone to Canada?
Yeah, that was that's quite the journey. I wouldn't go too deep into nitty-gritty. Let people read Be Not Alone. But I was born in Connaught, and it's a small town outside of Freetown, the capital, in Sierra Leone. And my ancestors actually migrated from Guinea, which is like neighboring country next to Sierra Leone, to from Guinea to Sierra Leone. And after I was born in Connaught, my parents, and then my siblings, we lived in Connaught for about 3 years after I was born, and then moved into Freetown, the city, and that's where I went to school. And did a year of high school. And in through the midst of all that, there was like really incredible moments that I remember. Like I remember things from when I was 3 years old. It is why, like I don't even know how. And I'm still shocked with some of the memories that I had, and I shared in Be Not Alone. And even like when I was chatting with my parents, they're like, "What? Like you remember that?" And then what is interesting as well is they have a different experience from their end. It's like when you're watching a movie and they show you like people's path of what they remember for each character. So it's kind of like that. So it was really cool for me to sit with them and have those conversations. I'm excited to have even more conversations this Christmas. And so unfortunately, when I was about around 7 to 8 years old, and I still can't remember the exact age, and the Civil War started in Sierra Leone. So it actually had already started in the provincial areas, so like outside of Freetown, but it reached Freetown, like so including the rebels taking over, overthrowing the government in power, the president in power, and going through that, like it what like one thing that's coming up to me right now, it really brought us very like the bond got really strong like within my family, and not just within my family but also neighbors, because we had like with where we were staying, we have this like big gate separating us and the sea. Literally the sea was in our backyard. And then on the front side of the house, like there's this big green gate that we can close up to protect herself in some ways. But at the end of the day, if the rebels wanted to come through, they can come through. And what was interesting about where we were staying, there were so many people who came there for refuge. Either it's like to come get water because all the taps would have been closed, and for some reason, only our area would have water. And then also coming for some food because we shared food. It didn't matter like how much food we had left. And this is something that my parents did and demonstrated, that it's always important to give from what you have. You don't have to wait till you have a gazillion to give, right? Um, and as we're going through that process, and then the crazy thing too, it's like we had to sleep in between walls. Either you sleeping in between walls or you're like flat, like you're sleeping on the ground. You don't want to sleep on a bed because if like a stray bullet comes through, it could hit you from from waist and up. So, and this is like all happened like when I was younger, and I think I didn't think it had much of an effect on me. And even after seeing what I saw as a child and moving to Canada, like I was like, oh, okay, I'm fine. Like, I made it through the Civil War. I didn't die. Like my immediate family is still alive, and we're grieving the people who passed on or who were hurt in different ways by, this atrocity. And at the same time, I had just weird things will happen to me that I didn't know there were triggers from the Civil War. So, for an example, I'll go to fireworks with my friends. And that sound, like I get super anxious and I wasn't sure like what what was happening. And then after the fireworks, there'll be so many people leaving the beach, and I didn't that contact to contact, it kind of reminded me when we're like running because we hear the shots like happening, and then we're all running to take cover. um and then there's and then also with vacuuming, like I absolutely despise like loud sound, like that sudden loud sound, like even including when someone knocks on the door or ring a bell. And I usually have like sticky notes on the outside of my door, like please text or call, right? And especially when I'm working, I get kind of jumpy. So there's all these different things that I'm navigating, and I've identified, okay, these are triggers from what I haven't healed through the Civil War. And then when I was living in Fort McMurray, there was a very like an incident that happened. There was a drive-by shooting. We're in this restaurant, myself, my late husband, and a few of our friends. And instantly, the moment the shot, like I heard the shot, and my body was like, okay, we're good. We're okay. We're okay. We're safe. Right. And then I kind of went into this mode of like, okay, let me take care of everybody else. Cause that's what we do. That's how we're wired. Right. And so we kind of left the restaurant through the back exit, got back to our place. And even on the way, one of our friends was like crying, like, just like traumatized by what had happened. And I was like, oh, yeah, I'm fine. And all of a sudden, when everything got quiet, I just started hyperventilating, crying. Like it was like a different cry. I couldn't stop myself from crying. And then it was like this movie was being replayed in my mind from the Civil War on repeat. And I couldn't shut it off. And I remember calling my younger brother who lives in California, and him sharing like how he's had like similar experience. So when he hears gunshot, and instantly I started to kind of calm down because I was like, okay, I'm not alone in what I'm going through. So that pause, I didn't do anything about it, go to therapy, and then it kept on coming up different times, right? Until, a couple years ago, I was like, I really need to face this. I need to deal with it. And that's the outcome of being not alone.
Whoa, that's intense. And because you kind of touched on you were so worried about everyone else. So when, because even in this book, you talk so much about the importance of self-care and
Mm-hmm.
self-love. So I guess the question is like, when did you really learn the power of self-love? And did you like burn out eventually before you went to
Oh
therapy?
yeah. Oh yeah. And I share this in like whenever I do keynotes that is connected to healing and self-care. I had an incident happen at the airport when I worked there as an operations manager for Starbucks. And I went in regular day, walked in, checking up on all the stores. There's six across the airport, and checking in, okay, what do the staff need? What's operational needs right now? What are the challenges, etc. Went into another store, one store where usually the busiest around that hour that I went there. it's lined out, but the line was significantly longer than it usually is. And then I look behind the counter, there's only about 3 people working, and there's usually 6 people working at that time. So someone was sick, people were running late. So I jumped in to help them out. And it's interesting, this day, what it was like after I came back from vacation. So I was kind of, I felt stress free, but I guess like I wasn't actually dealing with what was happening at the root of things. Like I was dealing with like the surface. It was nice to get away, but then coming
Mhm.
back, everything just like hit me all at once. And I remember a customer asking me for water while I was supporting my team, and everything just went dark. And I was like, okay, like it went dark, and then I remember, and then from dark and into waking up, and I was on the floor sweating, like covered in sweat, and my chest hurts, and I'm crying at the same time, and I'm just so confused. I don't know what happened. And so they called the emergency, and then the what do they call them? Paramedics took me to the hospital close by, Richmond Hospital. And basically the doctor I saw was like, your blood pressure dropped so low from stress that's just like been in your body and not being expressed and dealt with, that your body's way of bringing you back was my chest hurting, and then the sweat, and the tears was a way of my body reacting like it's not time, we need to come
Oh,
back. So with that experience, it hit home for me. It was a reality check. Like, okay, I need to do different. I can't keep doing what I've been doing. And then at the same time, too, it was about 2 years into the loss of living through the grief and navigating through that of the loss of my first husband. And so with all that put together, I was like, okay, this is my time. And when I made that promise to myself that I am going to prioritize my self-care, and I'm going to demonstrate what this looks like in different ways, and that's when it all started for me and it activated. Did I know before that self-care is important? Absolutely. Unfortunately, I had to have this like reality check for me to pivot in different way. And I think everything happened the way it was meant to be, right? And I'm still advocating for that. Like, a lot of times like I hear from different leaders and different, aspiring authors who I work with. They're like, "Oh, I just don't have time." And I'm like, "We can make the time." But it's so many different steps that we need to take to reach that space of, okay, this is what self-care is, and it's different for everybody what that looks and feels like.
okay. Because, yeah, that was going to be my next question. Like, what is self-care? Like you, I knew self-care is important. People talk about self-love and even confidence. Like, I would always confuse confidence with being loud and
Mm,
being right or just thinking that I'm right. And I guess almost like trying to force my way on other people because it's right and because I'm confident in it and because I love myself. And living life is like, oh, that's not what it is. And yeah, so I guess now I am kind of like, what is self-care to me? I guess I thought it would be the same for everyone, but
mm,
yeah, can you
mm.
speak to that? Like, what
Yeah.
is self-care?
Yeah, to me, it's really prioritizing that what that looks like in there's so many different aspects. Like so for physically for me, it's that I move. It doesn't matter how I do it each day. I need to have movement like happening for my body physically, and this also affects my mind, right? And then for self-care mentally, it's like, okay, I'm reading books, I'm learning, and I'm doing better. I'm learning new things because I'm feeding my curiosity. I'm very curious person. I need to continue to feed it. I'm going to get bored in things that I'm doing, and that's not an option. Um, and then for emotionally, it's okay, I feel this type of way. Like I see my triggers from far because I'm very open to sitting and crying and just, letting it out. laughing out loud or being still because now like I need to be serious or whatever that looks like. But I'm very open to what emotions are coming up for me and being really curious of what is this trying to tell me, right? And also to a point where people who are around me, like my close circle, and especially my husband, like I have communicated in different ways. Okay, this is what I need when this is happening. So, for example, if I'm doing the boo boo cry and I just need to let these emotions out, let them go, right? I'm like, okay, I just want you to hold me and just let me cry. Don't try to make me feel better. I just gotta let it out. And Shakira, it's like very freeing after. I feel so much lighter. I feel like I can do so much more in the world because I let those emotions out. And I am a happier person because I allow those emotions to flow unapologetically. And unfortunately, if people feel uncomfortable around me when I'm crying, that's not my issue. But it's that's my form of self-care. And then another thing as well, it's creating these like boundaries. So for example, when I first wake up in the morning, it's super important for me to read my affirmations, like set my intentions for the day, express my gratitude, do some meditation, drink a glass of water so that I'm laying that foundation and I'm setting the tone of what I want my day to be like before I even interact with people. It is so important, or things, right? Um, so that's another form of self-care because I'm taking care of myself first before I interact with people. I can't even imagine, and it's crazy because I used to do it. Like you get up, your alarm goes off, and then you're in your phone, right? Did that, and I was like, I like no wonder I was always like anxious sometimes. And just wondering like why do I need to keep moving? I don't know how to be still. And I think learning how to be still like that's something that really helps me as well. Like if I'm in a situation where I feel unstable, I feel kind of like I'm floating. It's like, okay, let's get still and just pay attention to like all like what my body is telling me right now, what my environment is telling me. But yeah, like self-care can be, I can probably go on forever.
No, I mean, I'm just gonna ask for that in another book, just for me
Right?
personally, because I love all of that. And I've talked about it on the podcast before. I grew up in an environment where they thought crying was weakness.
Hmm.
And I'm a very emotional person. So, like, I still cried, but I'd always feel bad and guilty about it. And even everything that you were saying, I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. But there's still a part of me that feels guilty for
Hmm.
taking so much time for myself. So, I
Hmm.
guess the question in that is, how do you establish those boundaries? Because I imagine, you're writing books, you're coaching people, and you're married. Like so many people may want your attention, and you're just kind of like, no. So how do you not feel selfish? Does that make sense?
It's it like I start with clarity, right? It's why am I here, right? I'm very clear on there's there's so many things that I'm here to do, like beyond, the coaching, writing, speaking, facilitating, all things, right? And it's especially for I will speak for my country from Sierra Leone, for the next generations in my bloodline, in my family. It's I want to show possibilities. Like I feel like that is strongly connected to my why. It's things can look impossible, but it is definitely possible through clarity, taking the right action, setting that intention. And then even the youth who I mentor and inspire, and leaders, aspiring authors, I have a responsibility to start with myself. If I'm pouring from an empty cup, I am not doing anybody any good. And guess what? I'm not going to be able to live on purpose because now I'm burnt out, or I'm feeling resentful, or I'm feeling guilty about something I didn't do that I meant to do. So it's really important for me to start with self and be very clear. So before I make make a decision, like let's say for example, someone asks me like, "Hey, Rassi, can you help with this?" I'm not gonna say yes right away. I'm gonna actually think about it. Like, okay, what is my intention here when I say yes, right? And if, for example, maybe it's like, okay, get back to me in about 2 months. And that's the same thing goes with also with like capacity of how many clients I work with at a time. It's important for me to stay honest with, okay, this is a capacity I can handle. And I think it comes down to like being honest with myself and being honest with the people who I interact, work with, support, etc. It's it's for me it's just it's important that not just like when people are watching, but what do I do when people are not watching? And that's why I'm very passionate about self leadership. It is a journey. It's not a destination because there's always something to improve on. There's always something to enhance. So for me it's important. It doesn't matter who's around. I'm going to go and get my movement going. I'm going to read so that I can feed my mind. I'm going to sit with my emotions. I'm going to laugh by myself. I'm going to put on some music and dance by myself for hours just because it feels good and it feeds my energy. So I think I am here to show possibilities in so many ways and through wearing all these different hats.
Oh my gosh. I love that. And like you just made something click in my brain because I do usually answer people quickly, like, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? And usually I'm like, oh, I'm not doing anything. But it's like, but I
Mhm,
could be doing something. Like, what is it that I want to do? And like, yeah,
mhm,
just how do I feel? I'm trying to take inventory of my life. Like, okay, after I interact with this person, okay, after I listen to this song or like read this book, like, how am I feeling? And is it good for me? So, yeah, thank you for confirming that within me. And like you were talking about leading for like the next generation, you are a Black woman. And in Canada, there's not that many of us.
mhm,
So,
mhm, mhm,
thank you. And I know
mhm,
even in the book, you talked about it a little bit of being the only Black woman. And I know for me, I've definitely been there. We have emotions because we're human, but there's that label of the angry Black woman. So
mhm, mhm,
I get scared to show emotion. But again, I want to put myself first. I want to be a human. So how do you personally like balance like how you're being perceived
mhm,
versus I said what I said. Like,
I totally
accepting
hear
as I am.
you. Oh man, like the one word that people always describe me, it's like you're being too assertive, especially in my various leadership roles, right? And at first, I questioned that. And then I also have this thing, and you've noticed in our interaction, I laugh out loud, right? Like if I'm laughing here, you can hear it down the street. It just is. And I've been told, like, you need to tone down your laughter a little bit. And when I hear these words, and these from people who I look up to, and I struggle a little bit because I'm like, okay, I'm toning myself down. And now I'm not showing up authentically because I mean, I'm confused. Like, who am I? Like, if I'm not laughing out loud, if I'm not being direct and clear with what I'm asking for to get done, and I don't know how to do a circle. I can tell a story, like I love storytelling, but I like to get to the point, like with especially when I'm leading teams and having performance conversations. It's important for me to be clear. So that comes across like, okay, assertive or too loud, in like a meeting setting or whatever. And what really changed things for me, I worked with there was a couple of things that happened. So the first thing is like I worked for a manager, my boss, who's like really good friends now. She showed me what authentic leadership looks like. It's the way she walks into a room and she embraces, and she's not a Black woman, but seeing this on display, I was like, oh, I could bring it back. I can just be me. I can just, be in the moment, laugh out loud, be silly, say ridiculous things, and just get people laughing at me, probably not even with me. And so that really brought like it opened up that space for me. I felt safe to like do it. And then at the same time as well, what I saw happen is like people on my team were showing up as they are. And either it's like I have some like there's someone on my team who is more introverted or more extroverted. I really created that space for them to be who they are and come as they are. And especially when you work in a restaurant like at Starbucks or McDonald's, most people are loud, right? And there's limited space for introverts. And, there's been times where I have a performance conversation. I'm like, I want you to embrace your introvertness. I don't even, this is a word nowadays. And, and customers are gonna be drawn to you who are introverted and they like that quiet service, not in your face and loud, right? So there's like different people that you attract. So with seeing that happen, from someone I looked up to, and when I'm in different spaces, because I'm still in some spaces where I'm the only Black woman, like in the room, or the only Black person. It's still happening, which is like mind blowing to me. But it's staying true to myself, right? Like when I'm about to speak, like it's very clear of my intention. I use specific words on purpose to be very clear on this is what I'm trying to say. And sometimes where, someone is being passive aggressive or being dismissive, that's when I show up with asking questions to understand, can you share with me what you're trying to say when you say this? Or can you share with me in different words so I can better understand what you're saying? And sometimes it really, what it does though, it's like it activates for that other person to check themselves before they say things in the future. So now I'm not only just doing it for this space right now, but also for the next conversations, right? So the next time they think of, saying to a Black woman, you're being too assertive, they're going to check themselves before they say that, right? Because for me, it's very important for me to know the intention and not even in just conflict or having that, hard conversation, but also when you're having fun, right? Like, can you share with me what your intention is when you say that? For example, like I've had some times where we're in a group and, some people find something funny, but I don't. And then I ask that person, can you share? Because I'm not getting it. Like, can you share with me what you mean when you say this? And again, it's that I hold that responsibility for me, I'm not a follower. Like if I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do this, I get it. I don't wait for people. Like, and everyone who's worked with me or collaborated with me there, I just get things done. And again, it goes back to that clarity and knowing what is my intention here and what is what's the why and why and why before stepping into it. But it's like you said something earlier about, it's a journey, right? Like it's not a destination. And I find myself checking myself, there's sometimes I'm in meetings, I might not say anything because I'm listening in. And then the next meeting is where I have, something to say. Um, but I think that when we really embrace like who we are from the core and be honest with ourselves, like we give ourselves an opportunity to grow and do better, right? Um, yeah, that's been my experience.
I love that. And that just, it made me so happy when you were talking about introverts and instead of telling them to like be louder or to change, you're like, no, just embrace that. Because I've been in situations and environments where I feel like people are telling me to like speak up or to change and be different. And it's like, is something wrong with me? And trying to like fight back, but not having the words to express, like, no, I don't want to change.
Mhm.
It's crazy. But again, thank you just for saying that. I mean, I took anybody can be a leader. Like just show up as you are. Again, that doesn't
Mhm.
mean you're perfect. It means,
Mhm.
like take inventory. And again, I think you talk about it in the book, like definitely reflect. And I guess kind of you can take, well, you just said it. Like if someone is giving you feedback, you can question it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
yeah, that's not a bad thing. So
Yeah.
thank you. I wish I read this book sooner. I wish you were my leader and manager. You're doing amazing things.
I
And
wish, Shakaya.
yeah, I mean, like, do you have any advice for anyone who wants to lead but feel like you're struggling?
The one thing I usually say as well is like pick up leading your truth because it's not just for high
Good.
performing leaders. It's also for, thank you for showing that. It's also for aspiring leaders as well. And it's important to look at leadership, like I talk about all the 8 steps. There's one thing that I want to highlight is that responsibility piece when you say that I am a leader or aspire to be a leader, it is really important to start with self-leadership. That's where you build that responsibility. Because the thing is with self-leadership, either people are watching or not, you're still working on those skills. You building on those key elements and understand that it is a journey. There's no destination. You do better from what you know, right? And then you lead better from the feedback that you're getting from your team. It doesn't mean you act on every feedback, and it's important to also check in with your why, your values, your purpose before acting on any feedback. For me personally, I don't just act on everything that someone is like, oh, Rasie, you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, thank you for the feedback. And I take it back in and then check with my why, my goals, my values. And then I say yes or no with that feedback. And I'm not responsible to please everybody. And that goes for the same for you as a leader as you're moving through the different experiences, different learning different skills, enhancing different skills in your leadership journey.
Thank you. I'm happy and I'm just going to read this book a million times.
Thank
But
you,
I did
Shakaya.
also want to ask because you've been through so many things. And obviously, like, even as a leader, we're going to make mistakes because we're human. But are you a believer that everything happens for a reason? Or, like, how do
Hmm.
you feel about
No,
destiny?
when it's happening.
Yeah, honestly, I'm like, was
No,
this
when,
part of the plan? Like,
yeah.
what?
No, when it's like actually happening and I'm in pain and I'm just hurting.
Like,
But after I've sat with my emotions and kind of let it work through the process of unpacking and just like, being curious of what's happening within my body, my mind, and all of those things. Then I move into, okay, this happened for a reason. But I'm a firm believer of that. We don't usually, it's not comforting when we say that in the moment. When someone is hurting, it's not, I don't use that word. It's happened for a reason. You got to let them go through it and then let them say that at the end.
okay.
But when I look back at my life, like all the different things I've been through, it made me who I am. And I wouldn't, no regrets. Are there traumas like I wish I didn't go through? Absolutely. At the same time, it already happened. I can't change it. All I can do is respond and heal what hurt so I continue to do this incredible work that I need to do in my community.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, because I mean, I think everybody has trauma on some
Mhm.
level.
Yes. Yeah.
So, again, like, how would you recommend that they start healing? Like, or
Mhm.
maybe I'll just ask you, how are you healing?
Oh man. It's a big part of it is talking about it, right? Talking about it with people I feel safe with and or people who need to hear it so that they can, especially someone asked me like how, for example, I get like messages. It's interesting how I did like a whole flip. When my first husband passed away, I reached out to a lot of widows within my community through Instagram, through Facebook, through LinkedIn, and also through my girlfriends who are in my close circle. And then now, like especially after I published Heal on Your Terms, I've had a lot of people reaching out, not just widows, but asking questions about my journey. How did I move through it? If I could say, that one thing is don't do it alone. Like you actually don't need to. It is so overrated. It's is it important to learn how to, spend time alone? Yes. And I think we do that when we get there, when you feel safe to do that. But for me, therapy worked for me, right? In so many different ways. Speaking to a counselor, going for runs, like running gets me closer to, releasing that those tears that need to leave my body. And reading helps me get still. Tapping into my community and speaking with people who I trust and love, that helped me through it as well. And the other part that's helping me heal is writing and publishing these different books. There's a lot that happens for me in the process before it even gets to my reader. So I think there's so many different ways, but it starts with a choice. You got to make a choice that, okay, I want to heal this and I don't want to stay here. And the thing with trauma, the triggers are going to keep coming up. Like you like it or not, it's going to keep happening. And until you make that choice, you're going to see things differently. And don't wait until the cost of being staying in that trauma, it's greater than where you want to be. That's one thing I would definitely say.
Oof, thank you. You just dropped so many gems. And I know I have a lot to just like think about and go through, but I love that you said it's a choice. And yeah, the choice is yours. But
Yeah.
yeah, my last question, I like to leave it open-ended into you. And I phrase it like, if you were to lose your voice tomorrow, what's like the last thing that you would want people to have heard from you?
Whoo! You got this.
Oh,
You got this. I have it on the back of my brand, my company t-shirts. You got this. Yeah. Yeah.
Put your glass on, get your boss on behind the glass.
mwah.